Join us on the program. Rick Ector from Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit is with us. Rick, good evening to you, sir.
Hey, good evening, Cam. How are you this evening?
I am great. Thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Hey, it's my honor, privilege to be here. It's always glad to be on.
Well, listen, this is a fantastic story I saw in the Free Press over the weekend. More women are using guns for fun and protection, and I guess I'm so sensitive, Rick, to these news stories. Usually, when they start talking about gun ownership, you get maybe a paragraph or two of positive coverage, and then the rest of the story is why it's such a bad idea for anybody to own a gun. But that really wasn't this. That wasn't what the story was about. I mean, this really was just a fair look at the rising interest level for women to learn how to be proficient at shooting a gun.
Yeah, I saw the article, and I must say that it was not necessarily a gushing pro piece, but I mean it was a very good, fair analysis of a impending, growing trend that we've noticed. It's something that I've noticed anecdotally as a firearms instructor, that over the last several years I've noticed an uptick in the amount of women who are taking the classes.
Really? Well, and it seems like, a very large common denominator, and I guess understandably so, women are concerned not just about crime while they are out and about, but, living in Detroit, you're now worried about crime in your neighborhoods and possibly coming through your front door.
Well, I mean, the stats here, I mean, at least through the third quarter of just this year, I mean, on average, if you take how many, we've had and divided by the number of calendar days, third quarter, 273 days, within just the city of Detroit, we're averaging 1 murder, 3 rapes, 57 burglaries, and 93 assaults every day. So,
wow.
With regards to crime, if you're a woman, obviously the odds are against you if you're facing a man assailant, and let alone if there's more than one, and maybe you have children and you're the principal protector of the household, is definitely something that a lot of women are given a second look at, these days.
And as I understand, I mean, it sounds like it's a good thing for these women to be doing this. Obviously, no matter how well staffed a police department is, it does take time for officers to respond to a 911 call. But Detroit, as you and I have talked about before, Rick, it's got some major problems, and I understand that in some cases, I mean, it looks like we're going to be dealing with some pretty significant public safety cuts.
Well, I remember one time being on the show before, and maybe you remember, there was this big talk about the city leadership was talking about shutting down like huge portions of the city down and not providing services in that area, sort of like a localized Marshall Plan.
Yeah.
Well, now, that obviously they've come to realize that that's not doable, and all the 2 years that this current city council and the mayor have had that they've really squandered, the day of reckoning for Detroit has come upon us. We found out during the mayor's televised press conference on this past Wednesday that unless drastic changes are done here in the city of Detroit, that we're going to run out of cash by April. Effectively, we will, as a city, be bankrupt. So, they talked about doing a lot of things, 10% pay cuts, benefit co-pays, retiree cuts, corporation tax hikes, but at the end of the day, the mayor's got his plan. He's looking at laying off 1,000 public service employees, and city council is saying, well, we don't think that you're cutting enough. We think that you may have to lay off 2,300 people, if they don't get certain concessions from the unions. And there was at least one city councilman who's saying as many as 500 police officers could be affected and laid off. So if we got something shy of 3,000 on duty, 2,900 is a number I hear a lot, and you're talking about as many as 500 being laid off potentially. The mayor's edict that he issued in his press conference that he wouldn't gut police and fire, it looked like he may not be able to keep that promise.
Wow.
So, looking at the level of crime that we have, there's obviously some serious public safety concerns that everyone is, at least within the community, is voicing. I've gotten tons of calls from people who are absolutely terrified that given the level of service that we're getting now, considering the amount of crime that we have, what in the world are we going to do if they happen to lay off 500 cops?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we've seen other major cities go through this. Now, Oakland, California, for instance, last year laid off a number of officers and said to the residents of Oakland, look, if you get home, you find that you're the victim of a burglary, don't call 911. We can't come out there for burglary calls anymore. You'll have to come down to the station and fill out a report on your own, or you can go online if they didn't steal your computer, and you can fill out a report online.
We've had something similar to that. They came out not too long ago and said if there's a home alarm that gets triggered and you're with some alarm monitoring service, and if it's not verified by human eyes or captured on video, we're not sending the police out to your house. So,
but I mean, it seems like that's going to get a lot worse if you lay off. I mean, I don't know how many officers are on the total size of the Detroit Police Department, but I've got to guess that if you're laying off 500 cops, that's going to be a pretty serious dent in terms of the staffing levels on the street.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an issue. And, one of the more interesting things that happened the other day was with all this talk about layoffs and maybe public service employees being laid off, like 500 cops. And they estimate their total roll right now at 2,900. You lay off 500 cops, obviously it's going to gut, your manpower numbers. But that was a district, Northeast District here in the city of Detroit, man. It's like the worst, area of town with regards to crime, and 17 police officers left their shift. There's talk of this alleged blue flu that they left their shift early, significantly early, halfway through, because they call themselves protesting the cuts that may occur within their ranks. And it was very sad to see that, these officers allegedly left their posts, and just had people vulnerable, during that time that area wasn't covered.
Wow. Well, listen, Rick, I appreciate you coming on the program, sir. It sounds like there's going to be no shortage of things to talk about from Detroit over the next few months.
Well, I mean, the day of reckoning is impending. Hopefully, the mayor and city council can get together and they can, get a plan together, at least agree on something, and keep receivership and this emergency financial manager from taking over. And who knows what they're going to do if they ever get in there. So, all we can do is hope for the best. And if we don't get the best, hopefully, people will take it upon themselves to do what they can to ride it out and to survive and to be safe.
Absolutely. Rick, again, sir, glad you could join us, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for having us on. Tell Pop and Mr. Gray I said hi.
I certainly will. Rick Ector from Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit joining us here on Cam and Company.